afternoon. This is actually my very first video meeting as the new division director here at Utah DABS, leading our newly combined purchasing and merchandising teams. I've had the chance to meet some of you already. I know some of you from my previous life before I stepped into this desk, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with the rest of you soon. I'm excited about what we can build together, things like stronger partnerships, better communication, and fresh ideas to move us forward. So these meetings, these kind of video meetings and additional emails and video calls that will follow are all part of our effort to stay transparent, share what we're working on, and make sure we're collaborating with you in a meaningful way. And so one quick note about email, we're going to use group messages as one of our main ways to keep in touch, but it's clear that sometimes those are getting stuck in spam folders. So I know even in regards to this video call, I got a lot of messages from people who thought maybe they hadn't been sent the notification. I'm pretty positive you were sent the notification, but it's likely it got stuck in a spam filter. I mean, just for sheer efficiency, all of our communications will be done through MailChimp. They should come under my email address, which is mhiley@utah.gov, but via MailChimp. And so sometimes those do get stuck in spam filters. So what I would say is if you didn't or you don't see communications from us, if you could just take a peek in your spam and see if you can find something from DABS or from me, and please go ahead and mark that as safe. If you or anyone else on your team should be looped in and you think you weren't, feel free to email me directly and we'll make sure that you get added to this mailing list. But transparent and frequent communication is something that's going to be really important that we want to do. And utilizing a group email like MailChimp is the most efficient way for us to do that. And so I just want to maximize and optimize making sure everybody gets those communications. Okay, so with that, before we dive in, one quick note on questions for today. We would like to address some Q&A. You are welcome to drop questions into the chat at any time during the presentation. We may address a few of them along the way. Most likely, we'll hold those until the end so we can keep the flow moving. And at that point, we'll try to address as many as possible in the time that we have. I don't know how communicative everybody's going to be on chat. If we get a lot and we're not able to get to your question, don't worry, because when we send out the recording and the slides from today's meeting, we will also include written responses to the questions that were submitted. So please use that as your way to communicate during this. We'll try to get to as many as possible at the end. Everything else will get sent to you. And just one request on that, if you do use the chat, it would be helpful if you could include your name and your company if that's not already clear from your Zoom ID. Okay, so moving forward, let's start with just a little background on me and how I ended up in this role. It's been an awesome adventure. And honestly, I have to say it's one that feels like it's come full circle to be sitting in front of you here today doing this. Most of my professional career has been in the world of consumer packaged goods. I spent a number of years at really amazing, incredible companies like Procter & Gamble, where I was an early pioneer and thought leader specifically in retail strategy and shopper marketing. And I will say one of the most formative experiences of my professional career was being embedded for a number of years in Bentonville, Arkansas, working alongside some of the best merchants in the world at Walmart. And that is where I really learned the power of a manufacturer and retailer collaboration to drive both brand and category growth, while keeping the shopper experience absolutely front and center. So for those of you who work with large global brands and brand groups, I get it. I've been there. I understand the value of bringing brand, sales, and Catman resources all to the table and the importance of that being a true partnership. So that was really a huge part of my foundation. From there, I moved into executive leadership at one of the first and leading shopper marketing agencies, helping to globalize what was at that point a very new practice of shopper marketing, winning in store, winning at retail, winning with the shopper. I also spent time gaining more retailer specific site experience with Costco when I was with another large CPG company, Henkel. So that was kind of, chapter one, if you will. And then I pivoted. I decided to follow a really long held passion, and I launched a boutique wine brokerage here in Utah called Vin 7000. And in that role, I had the privilege of representing some of the best, absolute best small family producers in the US and around the world. So for those of you representing boutique brands or working in smaller brokerage, I get you too. I know what it's like to navigate a control state model. I know what it's like to, be a boutique small operator in the midst of big global giants. And I understand both the challenges and the opportunities that come with that and navigating this control state model. So, I guess just as a way to say, like, I've been in some of your shoes before, and I really do understand. So all of that, somewhat serendipitously, I would say, is the path that's led me here to this role, leading the purchasing and merchandising teams at Utah DABS. And truly, I can't even tell you how many times I've told people this. It really does feel like a dream come true for me. When I founded Vin 7000, my goal was really simple: to understand what alcohol consumers in Utah want, but often assume they can't get here, and to innovate within the system to find creative solutions to meet their needs. And that's how we launched some of the very first wine clubs in Utah, by leveraging the special order system in, kind of new ways. And so now I get to bring that same mindset to a broader scale, working alongside all of you to modernize how alcohol is purchased, merchandised, and presented to consumers across our state. Okay, so I share that career journey with you for one big reason. Because collaboration between vendors and retailers has been part of my DNA from the very beginning. I've seen firsthand how powerful it can be when we combine resources, share insights, and truly partner. It really doesn't just move the needle, it drives bigger, better, and more sustainable results. And so that's why collaboration will be a major focus for us moving forward, both internally across our teams and externally with all of you. You bring incredible ideas, tools, expertise, and perspectives, and we really are eager to work more closely with you to tap into that strength and build something better together. I do see a few chats coming through. I think we'll start moving to these as we get a little bit further along. Okay, so as we look ahead to how we'll work and collaborate moving forward, I just want to take a moment to share where we've been focused during my first 90 days in this role. With several leadership transitions and the merging of the purchasing and merchandising teams into one unified division, it's been a time of both change and opportunity. These first few months have been all about building a strong foundation, understanding where we are today, identifying where we need to improve, and setting the stage for what comes next. So, how do you begin in a moment of that much change? Here's what we focused on during those first 90 days. First, I would call immersion. So I spent a lot of time listening, observing, and learning. My goal was to understand our current processes, systems, and vendor relationships, and to build a clear picture of both where we're strong and where we have room to grow. Also, what I would term evaluation. So one of the most consistent pieces of feedback I heard, and this was both internally and from many of you, was that our item listing process needed attention. So we took a deep dive into that process to identify specific friction points and begin developing focused, practical solutions for that very critical and important process. And then the third focus I would term adjustment. So to support our strategic goals and improve the way we work, we have realigned our division. This new structure is designed intentionally to foster more collaboration, to clarify roles, and to strengthen accountability so we can operate more effectively, both as a team and with our partners. And we will dig into both of these as we move forward here. Okay, so to begin addressing these concerns, we rolled out the first phase of an evolved process during this current, we're in it right now, fall listing period. I will say this is just the beginning, but it sets the foundation for where we're headed. Here's what changed. We introduced new value metrics, so dollar-based metrics that are transparent and more aligned with industry standard practices. We also applied a robust and consistent category analysis approach, one that is both repeatable and visible. That is something that we, can and have and will continue to very openly share with each of you. And perhaps most importantly, we made a really clear commitment to accountability in meeting our communicated timelines. These three things were all in reaction to the main challenges that we wanted to address that again came from both internal pain points reinforced by the messaging and the feedback I got from many of you. So to ensure focus and quality in what we're calling this pilot phase, we narrowed our scope to 10 key categories, each with a goal to refresh roughly 5% of the assortment. And that refresh creates space for us to bring in newness, variety, innovation into each of those categories. So we know this process is going to continue to evolve, but we're committed to learning, refining, and improving it with each cycle. So this is the start of that. I can comment now on some key results to date from having made these adjustments in the process. I will say thank you very, very much for your thoughtful participation in this process, especially for aligning your submissions to the focus categories and being selective in submitting your strongest candidates. That discipline really matters, and it really made a difference in where we are now in the process. We did receive just over 800 submissions. And while that's still a really large number, it is significantly fewer than in previous listing periods, which was intentional. That was what we were hoping for. And it allows us to conduct a more focused and meaningful review of the submissions we do get. I am happy to say that we are on track to complete our initial item reviews by this Friday, the 15th. We will be at that point identifying which items unfortunately will not be moving forward in our process, and which will advance to a more thorough committee review, which is the second part of the evaluation process. For those items that will be advancing, we may request product samples, and if we do request a sample, we will make that request also by Friday, in a couple days here, and that will be part of our initial evaluation of those items. Final listing decisions will be made and communicated just after Labor Day weekend on September 2nd. I will pause for one moment because this is a big one and we're in the middle of it right now. Any specific questions on the new item listing process that anybody would like to offer up now? Is there any effort to realign the categories to what consumers are looking for and what's available? Oh my God, I love that question. Yes, and I think you will be happy to see something that is going to address that a little bit later in this presentation. So hold that thought, and if you don't feel like it gets addressed, ping me again later and we'll bring it back up again. Okay, I am going to move us along. If there are still questions, no worries. We're going to come back to these. Okay, second big piece here. To improve the way we work, we have realigned our division. We have created a new organizational structure for the combined purchasing and merchandising department. This new structure is designed intentionally to foster stronger collaboration, clarify roles, and increase accountability, all so that we can operate more effectively as a team and as partners to you. The goal is a more streamlined end-to-end operational flow, from category analysis and new item selection to collaboration on distribution strategies and space planning, all the way through to item performance tracking and product lifecycle management. This approach is going to help us keep our categories fresh, relevant, and aligned with broader market dynamics and shopper expectations. And I don't say that lightly. This is a big evolution and a big step, and even being able to talk about things like aligning with broader market dynamics and with shopper expectations is part of the new kind of ethos and way of operating that we're bringing forward. And you'll see that brought to life in as foundationally of a way as how we're organized and what people's roles and responsibilities are. Previously, our purchasing and merchandising teams operated separately under separate leadership, and painfully aware that sometimes that did lead to communication gaps, potentially inconsistent experiences that you had, and sometimes a disconnect between strategy and execution. So with this restructuring, we're moving to a unified category management model, bringing these functions together so that we can plan, execute, and deliver with greater cohesion and impact. So what does that mean? That's a lot of kind of theoretical mumbo jumbo. Here's a visual of what our new organizational structure is for the division. This is a super exciting step forward as we strengthen both our purchasing and merchandising capabilities under this one cohesive framework. I will say it's important to note this is going to be a very thoughtful, phased transition over the next 90 days. We are committed to ensuring continuity in our current processes as we complete the team and shift responsibilities. So we appreciate your patience. You know, there's going to be some things that'll impact you, like vendor assignment evolution. So I want you to be aware of this, and just kind of also eyes wide open and sensitive and patient with the fact that this doesn't happen overnight. We've been planning it for the past 90 days, and now we're going to allow about 90 days for the full transition to occur. I would like to call out a few key highlights from this new structure. Most importantly, all of our current team members have been retained. I have to say, I feel super fortunate to get to work with this group of exceptional people. When I stepped, I mean, I'd worked with some of the team in my previous role, but when I stepped into this role and got to work with everyone directly, we truly have a group of very exceptional people. And so I'm thrilled that everybody is still part of the team, and we very collaboratively have aligned all of our current team members into new roles that reflect areas where they are curious and passionate and have experience and skills to leverage and to grow into. So that's kind of most important and foundational to this. One of the biggest pieces you might be noticing when you look at this is that we have created a new function within the team that's category management. So this is a new capability that we are building within the purchasing and merchandising team, responsible for category strategy, product selection, and performance analysis. These roles are critical to helping us ensure that we have a compelling and shopper relevant assortment of products in our stores. So these category managers will be analyzing trends, analyzing item performance, benchmarking against broader markets, and partnering closely with our vendor and broker partners to make informed and, importantly, insight-driven decisions. So they will become your primary point of contact for sharing category insights, and all of the new item submissions will be going through this crew. So you can see we have the category management team divided into responsibility for wine, for spirits, and then for beer, RTDs, everything else that doesn't bucket into wine and spirits. The vendor management team stands. This is traditionally how many of you are used to working with the DABS purchasing team. It is going to expand as well. And this team will continue to operate in a similar way as current, but with updates to individual assignments as we onboard new team members. So there will be more to come on that as we continue to build out that team. As far as merchandising goes, we've created 3 specialized functions within merchandising to build deeper expertise and focus. So we will be aligned against in-store merchandising programs, space planning, and inventory management. So again, a bit of a split of the team into specific specialties so that we can go deeper and partner more collaboratively with you. And then excitingly, this 5th bucket that perhaps you likely have not seen as part of an organizational structure for our team is e-commerce. And we are very excited that we will be launching a consumer-facing digital solution this fiscal year. You will definitely be hearing more about this soon. And some of what you'll be hearing from us is going to be important requests to help us validate and provide core item information for the e-com platform for your products. And that's really wanting to ensure that your items, your products are being reflected in an e-com manner, in a way and fashion that we're all aligned and everybody feels good with how they're presented on the platform. So there will definitely be more to come on that as we move forward. Okay, so now the next 90 days. These next 90 days are all about execution. After months of listening, planning, restructuring, everything that we just walked through here, we are now shifting into action. So these next few months are going to be critical as we put our strategies into motion and start delivering results. Here are our top priorities for these next 90 days. The first, disciplined execution of the new item listing process. We are committed to delivering a seamless experience from item selection through initial store distribution. So what we commit to you is an adherence to our published timelines. I think by committing to making all of our new item listing submissions by September 2nd, which is 1 month after submission deadlines closed, it's an enormous feat for this team, I will tell you. But it's important to us that we committed to that. Promises made, promises kept. And clear communication along that process at each milestone so that everybody is aware and informed of what's going on. Second key piece here is the organization transition. We'll be completing the implementation of our newly restructured division with a focus on ensuring continuity and minimal to non-existent disruption to our ongoing business, and finalizing role transitions and team onboarding over these next 90 days. So all of that should be invisible to all of you, but just know that it's going on behind the scenes so that we can be better partners with you going forward. And then the third piece identified on here for the next 90 days is we do have some new store happenings in the last quarter of the year that we're getting prepared for. So we have a brand new store opening in Marriott Slaterville in the last quarter of this year. And we also have a relocation of our Roy store. So getting those prepped and ready, and all of the item distribution and space planning and everything put together for those is another key piece of these next 90 days for us. It's a big quarter, but it's one that we intend to set the tone for how we operate, communicate, and deliver results going forward. Okay, so as we work together, I'd love for us to focus recommendations and ideas through the lens of two key questions. And I just think that these should be core to everything that we do. If there's something that unifies all of us and drives collaboration amongst all of us, it's grounded in this. And that is, what's the shopper problem we're trying to solve? Our role is we are here to provide the alcohol shoppers in Utah with the products and the experiences that they want to have. So at the core of everything, what's the shopper problem we're trying to solve? And what's the outcome that we want to create? So every evolution we make, whether it's a new item, a merchandising strategy, or a process improvement, It should start with a clear understanding of the shopper's unmet needs or pain points. And I feel really strongly that when we stay grounded in the shopper perspective, we ensure that we're going to create real, meaningful value. And that's what we should be doing. So from there, then we should work together to define clear, measurable objectives that benefit everyone. Benefits the shopper, benefits you as our vendor and broker partners, and benefits our business. So that could mean an improved shopping experience. It could mean stronger category growth. It could mean better operational efficiency, or ideally, all three of those, right? That's the magic, is when all three of those come together. Okay, so what comes next? And as we just discussed, more importantly, what shopper problems can we solve together? As you've seen from what we've talked about here so far, our initial focus has been on building a strong foundation through organizational restructuring and process improvements. And so now, as we strengthen those internal capabilities, we'll be able to start shifting our attention toward collaborating with all of you to deliver innovative, shopper-focused solutions. And I have to say, I feel like there is no shortage of opportunity for improvement and innovation. I get reminded of that every day with ideas and questions that surface from internally within the team and in the meetings I've had the privilege of getting to have with many of you. We're super excited to get to work with you to identify, prioritize, and act on the areas that we feel will have the greatest impact. We're not quite ready to move into some of these. You can see we have a lot on our plate at the exact current moment, but just to be totally transparent about what's on the radar and what we're seeing out there as opportunities to engage on, here are some of the focus areas that, that we have on that list that are on our radar. One is to bring more clarity and consistency to how we manage item availability. And I will say, this isn't necessarily a shopper-facing change, but refining and clearly communicating things like our item status codes and the thresholds for movement between them is going to improve alignment and item planning, helping to ensure that we have the right products available when and where they're needed, which will indirectly benefit the shopper. So that's kind of one of those things that I note on here. What can we do behind the scenes to better support the shopper and their experience? Another one on here, get the right products to the right stores. We've had a number of conversations with some folks already about moving in a direction of developing store clusters, and that will allow us to tailor distribution strategies a bit better, give shoppers access to relevant products, and help improve efficiency across both our space planning and inventory management. So again, should be invisible to the shopper, but it's something operationally we can do behind the scenes that's going to result in a better experience for the shopper and more efficient operations and alignment and communication between amongst all of us. Another item on here, make the in-store experience more engaging and what I like to call seasonal moments more memorable. So by elevating how we merchandise things like our holiday and limited time assortments, we can provide some surprise and delight moments to the shoppers, and also drive traffic and conversion, during those key periods where we have those merchandising programs in place. So these are just a few examples. We know there's more. We look forward to evolving this list together, sharing insights, sharing feedback, and really digging into a deep understanding of what our shoppers want and need and how we can help deliver that to them. So, this is one of those areas I would say we absolutely want to collaborate and understand what other ideas and feedback are out there that we can focus on. And as long as, we're all using the same lens of what shopper problems can we solve. Okay, we're gonna start to wrap up here a little bit. Let's look at some upcoming key dates. The full fiscal year 2026 calendar is posted on our website. I encourage you to reference it regularly for important deadlines and planning purposes. As you've hopefully heard throughout today's discussions already, we're setting a really clear tone around accountability and follow through, both for ourselves and for our partners. So we do appreciate your continued commitment to meeting those timelines. I've put just a few milestones on this slide here for everybody to keep on your radar over the next few months. I just glanced over at the chat, and yes, the recording, the slides, and written responses to everything that appears in the chat for Q&A will be sent out to everyone after. Now, I am going to say it's going to be sent out through MailChimp. And so if anybody feels like they're not receiving the messages, just another reminder to please go check spam and mark the messages as safe, because that really is the most efficient way for us to be able to communicate with everyone. All right, a couple other items to note quickly as we start to wrap up the more planned part of this. First, we are in the process of updating the vendor manual. This will be an ongoing effort. We plan to revise it at least annually and more frequently if significant changes to our processes occur. The most current version of the vendor manual is posted on the website. It is under the vendors tab. I believe it might be the last item. When you click on the vendors tab, it says vendor manual. That is where you can find it. Please reference that. It's really a key source of how we can, of a communication vehicle for us to make sure everybody's aware of how things work around here. When updates are made to the vendor manual, we will post that to the website and we will notify you via the group email. So again, check your spam filters, ensure our emails are marked as safe, and if any others on your team should be added to the distribution list, let us know. We're happy to include them. One very important section of the vendor manual that I want to call everyone's attention to. This is probably going to be the least fun topic of this whole hour that we have together, but it's related to warehouse receiving fees. So our procedures to support efficient receiving operations have been in place for quite a while. I don't know, prior to me and quite a while before that. They've been in place for some time. They are clearly outlined in the current vendor manual. While enforcement may have been a bit inconsistent in the past, we've now communicated these expectations a number of times. There was a written notification that came from then Deputy Director Cade Meyer back in April of this year. I sent a follow-up communication in July, and now via this video call that we're all on, this is a third reminder. And I will say, I just want to be super clear on this. At this point, we are moving forward with full enforcement of the warehouse requirements and any associated fees when shipments arrive with variances. And believe me, none of us take pleasure in imposing these charges. Like ideally, ideally we'll get to a point that this is going to be irrelevant and it won't even need to happen. But they are essential to us running an efficient operation, which allows us to make sure that the right products meet our shoppers quickly and in good condition. So please engage with the requirements, share them with your internal teams, share them with any of your external partners, and help us. We can all help each other make sure that everything flows efficiently through the whole shipping and receiving procedure. Okay, and with that, this brings us to the final topic of the call, which is Q&A. Absolutely want to thank you for your time, your attention, and most importantly, your partnership now and continuing to go forward. We covered a lot today. I covered it pretty quickly. I know there's likely comments, questions, ideas to share. Would love to hear from you. So let's open it up. Let us know what's on your mind. Put comments into the chat and we will address as many as we can in these last 15 minutes or so. I'm going to scroll back to the beginning. Let's see. Here's a question. Are you planning to create a section of Southeast Europe in stores, as that is the region that has made wines for thousands of years but has been ignored so far? I don't know if I know the answer to that, but what I want to say is that part of what we're going to be looking at, and especially bringing in a specific function and capability around category management, is that we will absolutely be diving into each of our categories, looking at both the assortment and the selection and the choice that we offer our shoppers today, broadening that scope to see how that compares to much bigger benchmarks, whether that's across, total control states, total open markets, but really expanding that vision to understand what categories we should have and making sure that those categories are reflective of the scale that they should be. So kind of making sure we have the right categories and making sure that they're right sized. So there could be some renovation to what our categories and category designations are. There will likely be some expansion and contraction of categories to better reflect market trends and what our shoppers are looking for. And be assured that everything is going to be based on what do our shoppers want and need, and addressing any pain points or opportunities they have. So, if there are any holes in our current assortment, like this potentially is, and we establish and verify that there is a Utah shopper need for those, then yes, absolutely, we're going to want to do what we can to find those items and to merchandise them in an appropriate way. Okay, here's a question about inventory management at store level. Every holiday, there are a lot of out of stocks. Yes, we understand this. We have probably, I will say I've been here for 3 months now, and I can assure you that probably every day in the past 3 months and every day for the next 3 months, my team and I will be engaging in conversations about making sure that we are better prepared for some of the surges that happen in our stores, most notably around the holiday time, and ensuring that we are able to meet those shopper needs by having our items in stock. I will also offer up to you, if you have a lens and a viewpoint that you are seeing things and want to make sure that we are aware of it as well. This is all about collaboration. This is all coming together for the strength of all of us collectively. So please do let us know, flag things, highlight them for us. We will already likely have it in our line of sight, but if we potentially don't, we are better together and we can all help each other out to make sure that we stay on top of things like that. Here's a question about realigning the categories to what consumers are looking for. Absolutely. Hopefully you heard that and saw that on the one slide that we talked about. I think one of the first key steps that these new the category management team is going to be doing is diving into each of our categories and taking a look at how they're organized and make sure that, whether it's price bands or subcategories, that we are viewing them and analyzing them in ways that are aligned with shopper needs, and ideally aligned with industry standard practices. So I know many of you leverage NAPCA data, and I think we have some opportunities to make sure, to make that more efficient and make sure that the way that we're all able to dig into and evaluate metrics and look at the categories is aligned from a broader perspective, so that there's efficiency and consistency in how that's done. Okay, here's a question that's in the chat about the listing process. Will you notify everyone or just those that are selected? So every item that was submitted, you will be receiving a communication on. Our initial item evaluations, we are currently in the middle of that. That is planned to be complete by the end of the day Friday. And that the purpose of that initial evaluation is making, kind of that first cut of deciding which items we're going to need to pass on this round. And so at that point, we will be sending out notifications that those items will not be proceeding in the process. If you have an item that you submitted that we are going to continue to evaluate and take to the next step of the process, which is a committee review, you will not be notified at that point. You will be notified then at the end of the process, which is September 2nd. And then that's when everything that we are choosing to bring into the assortment, we will notify you that that item has been selected, and everything that's not going to be able to advance, we will send you a letter letting you know that that item will not be added at this time. I will say I also received some feedback from some of our partners that it would be helpful if at the end of the listing process, if we issued a communication to everyone that announced, I guess, all of the items that were delisted during the current period and all of the items that were collectively added to the assortment during the current period. And so if that is indeed something that would be helpful to many of you, please drop it in the chat and let us know, because that is certainly something we can add to the communication stream, is kind of that recap after the listing period of what the results were from a category standpoint of what items have exited in order to bring new space and new life to the new items we're adding. Let me see, I'm just kind of trying to scan through this. Let's see. Here's a question on if there's any shipping and labeling updates. We have not changed the receiving requirements in the vendor manual for, well, at least a number of months. I don't know exactly how far back it goes. So what is currently in the vendor manual on shipping and label requirements is current. I have received some feedback that though current, maybe not as clear as it could be, especially when it comes to label requirements of what needs to be on the labels. So as we're going in and updating the vendor manual, we'll keep a special eye on making sure that the way that's communicated, or maybe via the sample label, provides some clarity to that if that's still a little bit confusing. And again, if that is confusing, drop a note and let us know. So we'll make sure that we address it. Let's see. Let's do. I'm sorry. I know this is like a weird pause, but I'm trying to scan through here to identify the questions that might have the broadest impact for everyone. There have been, as I've kind of scanned through this, there have been a few things on listing process. So again, in a commitment to adhering to timelines, any new item submissions that came in after midnight on July 31st automatically got rolled into spring 2026 consideration because the cutoff had ended for fall 2025. So if anything got submitted past that deadline, we will keep it open in our system for consideration for spring. If it was vintage specific, then let us know that. If the vintage specificity means it's not available anymore, then you can request that we dismiss that listing submission. If it still keeps open, but there's a possibility it would be a new vintage, given that it is 6 months later, we'll be evaluating, that is totally fine. We can work that into the consideration for the item. At this point in time, the current listing process is that the next new item listing period will be for spring 2026, which will begin officially on January 1st of 2026. At this point in time, we're keeping on that timing. As we stated, we are reevaluating the whole new item listing process. So there is a chance that the timing and the frequency may evolve. And if it does, we absolutely will make sure that is communicated to everyone. At this point, the only thing that we've modified is how we handled this fall listing period. So as we commence this and we take a look at how it went and we evaluate what we learned, and any feedback that any of you will please provide to us on it as well, all of that will be taken into consideration for future evolvement to that whole new item listing process. All right, I might try to pick one or two more on here. Okay. Yep, I'm seeing a lot of comments that a recap of what was listed and delisted would be helpful, so we will plan to assemble that. Yeah, and again, on the listing periods, the question on here that I'm looking at right now is, will future listing periods be limited to only 10 focus categories? That is not the intent. That really was as we adjusted a number of things and wanted to test and pilot some evolution to the process. We reined it down to 10 categories to limit the scope so that we could ensure we could kind of pilot test some of these new ways of analyzing the categories, and also commit to a quality review on following our timelines back to you. So we do plan going forward that they will be much broader in scope. We're going to take a look at how often, frequency, if we look at certain categories at certain times of the year, or if we keep it all categories. So all of those are areas that we will be evaluating. All right. Well, with that, I'm sorry we weren't able to get to all of the questions. Like I said, we will go back through the list in the chat, and we will include the questions and the responses in the follow-up that we provide from this meeting. So to wrap it up, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time, your attention. Looking forward to the collaboration going forward. We did record this. We'll be sharing those meeting notes to the full distribution. If there are any follow-up questions or thoughts, please do not hesitate to reach out to me directly. My email is listed here on the slide. I do want to hear from you. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear your feedback. And, we want to collaborate and we want to work together to help do what we can to deliver an amazing shopping experience to our shoppers here in Utah. So I look forward to continuing the conversation and working together. Thank you all.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Thank you.